introduce me, introduce you, and then we'll get going. Does that work?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Awesome. So, hello, my name is Sharon Coleman. I am the host of the Perfection Rejection show, how to finally overcome your perfectionism and get shit done. And I am here today with Nikki Rausch. She is the CEO of Sales Maven, an organization dedicated to authentic selling. She has a unique ability to transform the misunderstood process of selling. With 25 years of experience selling to such prestigious organizations as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Hewlett-Packard, and NASA, Nikki shattered sales records in many industries, receiving multiple top producer awards along the way. Today, entrepreneurs and small business owners from a wide range of disciplines hire Nikki to show them how to sell successfully and authentically without being pushy or salesy. An engaging and sought-after speaker, she shared the secrets of her sales success through illuminating keynote addresses and business-changing workshops, and her robust Sales Maven Society ignites game-changing outcomes for clients. Hello, Nikki, welcome.
Hi, and thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're here. I have a lot of things I want to ask you about, and the first one is, can we talk about, so for so many creative people and for so many people who have this imposter syndrome, I think selling becomes a very personal and scary thing because we tend to, we tend to internalize all of these voices. Can you talk a little bit about how to sort of make it not seem scary?
Okay, I love this question, and I get it too, right? I get the idea that sales can feel scary and having that imposter syndrome. And one of the ways that I recommend that clients kind of step out of that and kind of, in a way, kind of bypass it a little bit is that when you are in a sales conversation with a prospective client, your job is to not try to convince anybody of anything. Your job is to make the experience amazing for that person. And your job is to help them understand what their problem, what their need is, what their want is. And then if you have something that solves that problem, that want, that need, then it's an opportunity for you to offer it. So it isn't about convincing and it isn't about pushing your agenda. It's really about putting the relationship first, making the other person feel at ease and comfortable in a conversation with you. And then when it comes to the sales process, when you have something that meets their needs, it really is your job to offer them an opportunity to take a next step with you. And really, I call it an invitation. That's all it is an invitation. And we get invited to things all the time, right? You get invited to things, some things you want to go to and some things you don't, but you're never offended that somebody invites you to something, right? Like it's not like, how dare you invite me to whatever it is. So when you think about sales as an invitation, it takes some of the pressure off because people aren't offended by an invitation. They are offended when you try to ram your agenda down their throat. So that's not what real sales is. It's not about convincing. It's not about like coercing. It's just about inviting.
That is a really, really good way to look at it, because I think this has been a theme throughout this show is that doing things from a place of giving and of service. Mm-hmm. It always feels good. It always feels good to us. And so we are able to step out of those negative self-talking things that happen when we do things from a place of service. So talk to me a little bit about, like, one of the things I struggle with personally is I've come from a product-based background and I've gone more into service-based, and I struggle with selling the intangible. So like something solid, I can see how to sell, like this meets your need, it's a product, right? Can you talk about selling the intangible? Like selling services. I mean, it's for like people who do coaching and things like that. So,
Well, you really do have to focus on results, right? Like instead of getting so caught up in like, you're going to get this amount of time with me and you're going to get these materials, or we're going to discuss this and this and this. Think about what are the results that they can experience. And that's really what people will pay money for, is like, what's going to change in my life? What's going to improve? What's going to get better? And when you're putting out an offer, you need to think about results for the other person and what it's going to mean for them. I had a coach years ago when I very first started my business, and I was putting together like my first course, and I was super excited about it. And at some point he was like, okay, I like went through the course with him and outlined what people were going to get in the course. And he was like, okay, so what? And I was like, so what? How? That feels a little like, oh, what do you mean? So what? He's like, so what else does this mean for their life? It's got to be bigger than that. And it was such a great lesson. And now I say it to my clients, but I always say it in a much nicer way. Like, I'm like, so what else does this mean? So when you're thinking about your intangible, think, so what else does this mean for this person? Or so what else in their life will improve as a result of having a coaching program with you or experiencing your service?
Right. So Nikki, what do you think is something that everybody should know about the sales process?
Well, one of the things I think everybody should know is that there are 5 critical steps in the sales process. And it's so important that you understand what step you're in a conversation with somebody, because if you don't know what step you're in, you don't know where to go next. So I teach, my signature framework for sales is a 5-step approach called the selling staircase. And the 5 steps are, the first step is the introduction phase. And that's the opportunity for you to present yourself and make a positive first impression. And it could be that you're meeting somebody for the first time, but it also could be an introduction to somebody you've known for a really long time about the possibility of you working together. So there are some key things you want to do in that introduction phase. And once you make a strong, powerful first impression, then it's easy to move to the second step, which is the curiosity creating phase. This is where it's your job to attract your ideal clients by making statements and answering questions in a way that makes people go like, maybe there's something here for me, or, oh gosh, that's something I'm interested in. And once you get that curiosity response from them and they're like, ooh, I'd like to know more, now you can very seamlessly move to the discovery phase, which is the 3rd step in the process. And discovery is an opportunity for you to understand what's going on for this person. Like, what do they really need? And then for you to also ask questions that lead the person to hiring you. And when I say lead the person to hiring you, it's how you frame questions. So for instance, don't ask questions about things that you don't do. And don't ask questions about their business that isn't relevant in order for them to hire you, because that's a waste of their time and also your opportunity to do a really great discovery process. And once you've done a really good discovery, it's so seamless then to move to step 4, which is the proposal. And that's where you get to lay out your offer. That's where you get to make a recommendation or a suggestion on something that's going to meet their needs and solve their problem. Now, notice I'm not talking about selling in the discovery phase. And that's one of the mistakes that people often make, is somebody will answer a question and they'll go right into sales mode and they'll be like, oh, so you need this, so here's what I offer. But if you haven't done if you haven't done the discovery process well, you may start selling them on something that isn't the thing that's going to like have them go, oh yes, I'm interested. So there is a separation between discovery and proposal. And then the last step in the process is the close. And that's when you issue close language that allows for them to make a decision. Do you have something I need and want? And am I ready to purchase? Yes or no? And so understanding these 5 steps are so crucial in the sales process. And this is why I teach this framework. I wrote a book about this. My 3rd book, The Selling Staircase, all outlines these 5 steps. And what I love about it is that it offers people an opportunity to allow for their own personality to shine through. So it's not like, oh, I've got to sell like Nikki. It's like, no, I understand these 5 steps now. I know what step I'm on in this conversation. And so I know what the next step is, and I know how to lead the client to the next step.
Nice. So, so talk to me a little bit about how to sort of so you talked about it being sales being an invitation.
Mm-hmm.
So what if you're sort of introverted and don't like putting yourself out there? Is there ways to deal with selling for somebody who might be more introverted?
Yes, I also fall on the introverted scale, and I have built a very successful career as a salesperson being an introvert. And one of the things that I realized early on in my sales career as a professional sales rep was that I couldn't try to sell like anybody else. I needed to find what were the things about me that really worked and would allow for rapport to be built. And so for an introvert, think about building rapport with the other person. Everything I teach, there's a foundation of rapport behind every single step in the process. And so there's a reason that you're doing your business, right? You probably, like, I think you said this earlier, you probably have a servant's heart in some way. You want to serve, you want to show up. And so think about building rapport with the other person. So instead of trying to sell somebody, build rapport first and focus on that. That's a first step, because as an introvert, once you have rapport with somebody, you start to have a relationship. And now the conversations get easier versus just trying to go out and like shotgun approach and sell to anybody who will talk to you. As an introvert, that's like the most horrible thing you could ever ask me to do, right? Like, go sell to everybody, Nikki, like talk to everybody. That's too much. So be more selective as an introvert. Pick the people that you really would love to do business with, the people who you think you have something that might solve their problem or meet their need, and just focus on building rapport.
Yeah. So I see how that can be done on an in-person thing or over the phone or on a Zoom call like this. But a lot of people are, we have online businesses, a lot of us now. And so a lot of the selling happens through email and through, messages online. Can you speak a little bit to how that plays out?
Yes. So one of the things that I recommend in an email and even online, anything where you're communicating with somebody with, that's a message, right? So whether it's email or LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever it is, remember that none of us sit around and read our emails as a group. So that means you should never send emails that says, "Hey guys," or like talk to one person in your messages. Be specific and don't use language like "for all of you." It's like, no, nobody's sitting around reading social media together, and nobody's sitting around reading their emails with a group of people. We read them as individuals. So talk to an individual. I do recommend that you figure out who your ideal client is and make sure you're writing things that really speak to the heart of that person. So I have an exercise that I give my VIP clients. It's an ideal client profile exercise where they have to kind of do these steps and figure out who their ideal client is. And I ask them to assign a name to their ideal client. So I've done this process. Obviously, I do the stuff that I teach my clients to do. So when I'm writing emails, everything I write is to Lucy, because Lucy is my ideal client. She makes up exactly the type of person that I would love to have as a client. And so when I'm writing or putting anything out, I think, would this resonate with Lucy? Now, doesn't mean that I'm not sending like, "Hey, Lucy," email to you, Sharon, right? Like, I'm actually sending you an email that's directed to you, but I'm writing it to attract my ideal client. And that is going to resonate with you more than if I say like, "Hey, everybody."
Right. Right. So what are the can you share some of the pieces of what that ideal client exercise looks like?
Yes, there are actually 4 pieces to it. And one is the first piece is figuring out, like, write down everything that you know about this person, like everything. Make a list, And assign it, if you want to assign a gender, fine. I did assign a gender to mine, although many of my clients will do a male and a female version. And like, what are the things that are interesting to that person? What do you need to know about them? The second part is actually stepping into the shoes of that person. Imagine taking on that persona, being that person, and make a list of what are the things that they look for when they're going to hire somebody. What do they have to hear from that person? How does that person have to show up in a meeting? Because I think one of the things that we forget to do often when we're deciding who our ideal client is, we miss this really important step, which is, are you the kind of person and the kind of business and have the kind of service or product that that ideal client would pay money for? Because if you're not, there's a mismatch, right? And so you might say like, I really want to work with X, Y, and Z clients, and they all have to fit this certain criteria. Now, it doesn't mean that you have to have that criteria, but if they wouldn't hire somebody like you completely missed the mark in your ideal client profile. So you need to make sure you're the kind of person they would hire. So those are kind of the first two steps just to really kind of get you started. And I think if your audience does those first two steps, there's going to be some big ahas as a result of it.
Nice. So I think for a lot of people too, when they're starting out, I hear it a lot, but I am my ideal client. Do you find that that's accurate, or that it's something that just we tell ourselves because it's easier?
I think it depends on your business. Like, I'm not my ideal client in that I already know sales. So I wouldn't go and hire a sales coach because I understand the selling process. I am my ideal client in that I fit some of the criteria. My ideal client, and this isn't to eliminate everybody, but it's really to attract the right people. Like, I fit kind of in that age range. I fit in the revenue, range of my business, to a point, but I don't know if it's true. Like, I feel like it might just be one more story that you are limiting yourself, because like attracts like, we always hear people say, people buy from people they know, like, and trust. So it's easier to be in conversation with people that are like you, but this is also why I teach. Some of the things that I teach is how to adjust your style to put people who have a different style than you at ease and attract them too. Because if you're only attracting like clients that are like you, you're probably missing a pretty big segment of the market.
Right. So do you have any other nuggets of wisdom to share?
I have a ton of nuggets of wisdom to share, but for the audience, here's what I will say is, remember that one of the key things I always like to leave people is that most people will not decide to hire you until you invite them to do business. So you have to get the words out of your mouth, or you have to get the words out on paper, or however you're sending, electronically, however you want to say it. But you have to get that invitation out. Don't assume that you can put up a website and you can post on social media and people are just going to flock and hire you. That's just not how business works. Mm-hmm. So you have to be issuing invitations to people so that their brains can decide, do I want to hire Nikki or not? And either way is okay, but the invitation has to be issued, because most people won't decide to hire you until you invite them.
Nice. I understand you have a free audience to share with a gift. I was write that, reverse it. A free gift to share with the audience. Would you like to tell us about it?
I do have something. I would love to gift the audience my ebook, which is all around closing the sale. It's got some very specific language in it, how to move people through that closed process. And they can download it by going to yoursalesmaven.com/PRP for Perfection Rejection Podcast. Or is that what it is? Perfection Rejection. I think that's how my team set it up. So it's PRP.
Well, we'll have a link to it too, so it'll be easy for everyone to get.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.